2023. The magnitude of that recession is debatable, but I think it's at least a light to moderate recession. Potentially, it's on the order of 2009. So I think it's wise to kind of like prepare for the worst, hope for the best, prepare for the worst. Don't get too adventurous. Like watch out for margin debt from a cash standpoint. Keep powder dry. You can get some pretty extreme things happening in a down market. Like Brett Johnson, who was a CFO, who is a CFO of SpaceX, was at Broadcom in 2000. He said that, and that's a good company making good products. And he said from peak to trough, I think in less than 12 months, Broadcom went down 97%. So like even if you had a small margin loan there, you got crushed. It subsequently recovered, and I think to much higher levels. But you know, if there's like mass panic in the stock market, then you've got to really be careful about margin debt. This is just as we know, the economy is cyclic, and we're somewhat overdue for a recession. And my best guess is that we have sort of stormy times for a year to a year and a half, and then things start to dawn breaks roughly in Q2 24. If I were to get, that's like my best guess. Recessions don't like booms don't last forever, but neither do recessions.
And it's a 14-year boom, so a 6-quarter recession seems like that might actually balance out. The last time it was 4 or 5 quarters, so it's not easy. Hey, the Twitter files. How much longer are these going to go on?
Where do you think the economy is headed right now? Do you think we're in a recession, or is it just a risk? How do you assess our current economic situation?
Well, predicting macroeconomics is always difficult, and one should assign probabilities to these things. But ironically, I did last year. People asked me what I think about the economy. I said, well, I think we might enter a recession in approximately spring of 2022.
Called it. Nailed it.
Now the thing is that recessions are not necessarily a bad thing. I've now been through a few of them, and what tends to happen is if you have a boom that goes on for too long, you get misallocation of capital. It starts raining money on fools, basically. It's like any dumb thing gets money, and I'm sure you've seen a few of those. So at some point, it gets just out of control, and you just have a misallocation of human capital, where people are doing things that are silly and not useful to their fellow human beings. And then those companies, there needs to be sort of an economic enema, if you will, to have everyone sort of shift uncomfortably in their seats. So, I mean, listen, it's got alliteration.
This too shall pass.
This too shall pass. Eventually, the economic enema does its job. It clears out the pipes, if you will.
Yes.
And sort of the bullshit companies go bankrupt, and the ones that are doing useful products are prosperous. But there's certainly a lesson here that if one is making useful product and has a company that makes sense, make sure you're not running things too close to the edge from a capital standpoint. That you've got some capital reserves to last through irrational times. Because in the past, when there's been a recession, it has gone. It's amazing. It's flipped like a light switch. I mean, David, you remember this from the PayPal, ex-PayPal days, when we raised $100 million in March of 2000. And we had the demand was so high, we had people like VCs like just literally without even a term sheet wiring money into our account.
We'll send the term sheet later.
they literally would like sleuth out our bank account number and wire money in. And we're like, where'd this come from? And it's like, so it was like there was literally fire hosing money in March of 2000. And then in April 2000, the market went into free fall, and it went from raising money was trivial to even good companies could not raise money in a month. So it's just important to bear in mind, like that, PayPal almost went bankrupt in 2000. We came close, but thankfully we'd raised that $100 million in March 2000, without which we would be we're in game over basically, and we kind of saw it coming. So it's like we got that the X Confinity merger done in like 3 weeks and raised $100 million because we were like, how is this? We see this coming to an end pretty soon. Make sure if you're a healthy company, you got some capital to get through things, and then what's your costs, and if it is a recession, which more likely than not it is a recession. I'm not saying it is, but it probably is. Then just watch your cash flow and get to positive cash flow as soon as you can. But I think we probably are in a recession, and that recession will get worse. But these things pass, and then there will be boom times again. So it'll probably be some tough going for, I don't know, a year, maybe 12 to 18 months is usually the amount of time that it takes for a correction to happen. So it's like the government can't just have issued checks far in excess of revenue without there being inflation. Velocity of money held constant. So unless there's something would change with velocity of money, but it's just if the federal government writes checks, they never bounce. So that is effectively creation of more dollars. And if there are more dollars created, then the increase in the goods and services output of the economy, then you have inflation. Again, velocity of money held constant. This is very basic. This is not like super complicated. And if the government could just issue massive amounts of money and have and deficits didn't matter, then why don't we just make the deficit 100 times bigger? Okay, yeah. The answer is you can't, because it will basically turn the dollar into something that is worthless. So, and various countries have tried this experiment multiple times. It's not like, oh, I wonder what happens if this is done. Yeah. Have you seen Venezuela? Like the poor people of Venezuela have been just run roughshod by their government. And so obviously you can't simply create money. The true economy is very important. Like the true economy is the output of goods and services. It's not money. It's literally what is the output of goods and services. Money is simply a way for us to, or anything that you call money, is a way for us to conveniently exchange goods and services without having to engage in barter, and also to shift obligations in time. Those are the two reasons that you have money. This thing called money. It's really it's a database. Money is an information system for labor allocation and for exchange of goods and services and for translating in time. And the quality of that information is a function of, it's like you can apply information theory to money. And I think it helps explain why one money system is, or why one action is better than another. Just like an internet connection, you'd want something that's high bandwidth, low latency and jitter, and is not dropping packets, does not have a lot of errors in the system. And the same is true of money. You want, and really, like you said, what did PayPal really do? That it helped improve the bandwidth, the speed at which money could move. Instead of mailing checks back and forth, which amazingly that was what people did in 2000. You could now do real-time exchange of money, and now you could ship your goods immediately instead of mailing a check. And the ultimate thing that with PayPal, or if it sort of was in the X.com, sort of went less sort of niche payments and more sort of broad financial, would be to simply disintermediate all the heterogeneous COBOL databases out there running on mainframes doing batch processing, and have a single real-time system that was secure and not batch processing. It would just be, from an information standpoint, more efficient, and eventually it would, all the batch processing COBOL mainframes operated by the banks would cease to exist. An economic competition that I think will blow people away when they realize just how competitive they have to be competitive with companies in China. It's very difficult. Tesla is competitive. But Tesla is competitive because we have an awesome team in China. The Tesla work ethic in the U.S., I think, is substantially greater than any other car company or any large manufacturing company that I'm aware of. Tesla does have a strong work ethic in the U.S., but to be totally frank, the work ethic is exceeded on balance by the Tesla China team. That is, I think, objectively true. That's not to say there aren't lots of hardworking people at Tesla US. There certainly are. But if you say on average, the work ethic in China is higher. It's just
now or extend runway to Q1 2025. And they're
25.
Yes, because I think Elon
Not 24.
Elon and I are kind of roughly in the same place we have been for a while, which is like, mid 24 is when the recession ends, and you need to give yourself 2 to 3 quarters of buffer so that you can go and raise around, which takes a quarter to 2 quarters. Of the companies that I think were the most precariously positioned, there was 5 of them that got their acts together and really did it. But these are all CEOs of companies that, if I said them, you would know some of them. But I do agree with David. I think the CEO that bit the bullet. So maybe publicly what I would say is, the CEO of Klarna deserves a huge, medal for having the courage to do it before anybody else did. The CEO of Checkout.com just took a huge write down. These CEOs are making sure their companies survive.
Friedberg, best CEO 2022. Friedberg, best investor for you 2022.
Same. I had Druckenmiller. I indicated that he's been doing interviews pretty much every quarter for the last 2 years, and he's been pounding the table, telling everyone what's going to happen, and it all happened. And he even told people the trades in mid-2021. He said he was short long-dated treasuries and he was long commodities. And if you had put those 2 trades on at that time and held them to today, you would have made a fortune.